Is it fine?
Thank you. This is much better. Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe we can continue talking at least, yes. So hello everyone. Good afternoon. Welcome to the session. We have Munna Devalan Gople and Neeraj Rana. So I'll quickly, since this is a very small group, we can introduce ourselves one by one. I myself am Vinod Yadav. I'm right now in Lucknow. I represent a foundation known as a Progressive Foundation, which was founded about 15 years back. My background is that I have worked a significant number of years in the energy sector, and then I moved to development sector. I studied electrical engineering, and then MBA. I did MBA and then studied international development at Harvard University. I worked with the World Bank and McKinsey for some time before I moved to India about a decade back. Since then, I've been working in development sector here in India. My colleagues, Mr. Sandeep Mishra and Princy Prajapati, they have been very close collaborator. So maybe Sandeep, you can quickly introduce yourself, and then we can request Munna and Neeraj also to share about themselves. Yes.
Yeah, sorry, I had a power cut. So as soon as you said that you come from energy sector, I quickly lost the energy.
I just said, you go ahead. You can quickly introduce yourself briefly, and then
Can you hear me?
Am I audible? We can hear you.
Cool. So I had to just switch off my video because I have a power cut in my complex. So yeah, no, thank you, Vinod, for inviting for this discussion. Looks like very excited to take this forward. So I am Sandeep. I run a social impact consulting firm called Category 4. It's been 6 years since we started Category 4 and working with various governments on different things to ensure that the high quality programs done by the NGOs are getting adopted by the government, because as you may know that India is known as a graveyard of pilots. A lot of pilots happen in the social sector, but they don't tend to scale because of a lot of execution challenges. So we work at the intersection of the philanthropic ambition and the government reality, and try and bring the kind of both the parties together to drive long-term sustainable impact at the scale. In addition to that, we have also built our expertise in monitoring evaluation, where we are doing a lot of work in the ecosystem research and also do third-party evaluations for a lot of NGOs and government programs. I come from development sector. I started as a banker for a year or so, but very soon I realized that I should move to development sector, and then I started working since 1999. I started working in development sector, and it's been almost 27 years now, working across various themes. Resonance, and started working in education space. I've worked almost like 2 decades with various organizations in India and also in a couple of countries in Africa, where my role was primarily to lead large-scale intervention pertaining to classroom improvement in foundation literacy and numeracy, skilling, and also a little bit on the career guidance. Until 2020, I worked in a kind of formal role in different organizations, and since 2020, I am running this organization called Category 4. I'm here today to chat with you, to understand your perspective on this, and looking forward to a lot of learning conversation. Thank you.
Thank you. Princy, can you introduce yourself? Princy, can you briefly introduce yourself?
Hello everyone, my name is Princy. Right now I'm in US. As Vinod already introduced me, that I have worked with him and his team back in India. My quick background is I studied electrical engineering. I did my undergrad and masters, and then I started working with Vinod and development sectors with him. Started working in development sector back in 2017, and then I came to US to pursue my master's program in international development and public policy from UC Berkeley, and I finished my program last year, and right now I'm working with the Catholic Charities nonprofit as grants manager. And I'm not directly working with this um, impact evaluation space, but I have done few projects when I was in India, and I have done a couple of projects with university professors in this field. And I'm also observing new AI interventions in this sector. So I'm curious to have these conversations with all of you here. Thank you.
Thank you, Pinchi. So I see here three gentlemen, Neeraj, Munna, and Vijay. Can you quickly tell where are you from? It was not original format of the session, but since we are just three here in number, from the participant side, we can quickly have introduction so that it could be more participatory.
Okay, I can go ahead. My name is Munna. I'm currently working as a senior associate in impact measurement at data team. I'm curious to, in our organization, we look after the impact measurement activities of large state scale programs where we gather mostly quantitative data, but we also look at the qualitative data. So, because large scale program, there is a lot large qualitative data, so we can't rely on traditional methods. So, my the aim of joining the sessions related to AI in the gLOCAL evaluation week was yes.
Okay. Vijay ji?
Hi, this is Madhvi. I am a social worker and a researcher by training. I'm primarily a qualitative researcher, and I take up independent projects to conduct qualitative baselines, end lines, some M&E exercises, and also impact assessments. That's my brief introduction.
Great. Thank you, Madhvi.
So, once again, welcome everyone, and I'm your moderator.
You're on mute, Vinod.
Thank you, Madhvi. So I'm your moderator today, and again, welcome everybody, and it's a pleasure to moderate the session on AI and future of evaluation. As all of us as development practitioners, we always share a common challenge that how do we know whether our interventions are actually making any meaningful difference in people's lives. And then evaluation has always been very central to this question. That's how we try to find answers. And nowadays, AI offers a lot of exciting possibilities, from analyzing large volumes of quantitative and qualitative data to extracting insights from text, images, audios, and everything. At the same time, it also raises important questions. How reliable are AI-generated insights? What biases might be embedded in the algorithms and data? So in my view, AI should not be seen as a suitable, as a substitute for a human judgment or field experience. Rather, it should be viewed as a powerful and very effective tool that can augment our ability to learn, evaluate, and improve the effectiveness of development program. So today's today let's explore about AI, how genuinely AI can add value, where the cautions are required and all that. So in that process, we have invited our speaker, Mr. Sandeep Mishra. who will present his view on that. And Princey is also who has worked with us for a number of years, and she's right now in San Francisco. She will assist us in that perspective. And later, we can have more question and answer session as well, and share our perspectives as well. So thank you very much. Over to you, Sandeep.
Thank you, Vinod. No, I mean, I don't know. I was expecting a different sort of little mixed audience, but looks like we are, and then that was in the mind when I prepared this deck. But I think I still hope that is going to be relevant. But let's just keep it little unstructured, to be very honest. I'll start with presenting the PowerPoint I have put together, but very happy to stop anywhere. And then if you want to kind of discuss something which you think is going to be more useful for this group of audience, I think very happy to be flexible there as well. So let's start with a kind of understanding. I'm sure that a lot of people have started using it already, and I think it's more of a kind of I think it's more of the intensity of it rather than the understanding of it, because a lot of people have started using AI these days, not only in evaluation but in other forms of kind of development as well. But since we have put this together, let's start with this. I'll move to the next slide. I request Amboj if you can just take us to the next slide, and then I'll. So this is how we have planned today's discussion. Now, since we don't have 60 minutes, we largely have like 42 minutes now to close this conversation. I'll try and go a little faster as compared to what I had thought of. There are 5 components which we are going to discuss today as part of this discussion. One is the kind of the whole AI movement, because we are talking about AI. It has become a buzzword, and now it is kind of creeping into the all walks of life in our personal, professional, everywhere. The second component we'll spend some time on is basically AI in evaluation, where we'll talk about what kind of tools we can think of, what are the use cases are, and what are the kind of emerging applications there in the AI which could be useful for the evaluation work. The third component we are going to discuss about the practical framework, where we'll talk about more of the responsible use of AI as to what is like more of a what is responsible use, because ultimately, as Vinod said, that AI should be seen as a kind of tool for increasing the efficiency and productivity, not should be seen as a replacement of human being, right? So it's a kind of means to certain end, and that is not end in itself, right? So how do we really when you use AI, how do we be responsible to the facts that are going to be affected by the use of AI? The fourth component we are going to talk about is on risk and ethics. What are the risks involved, and the most critical part is the ethical component of it. Why it is important to keep kind of ethical kind of proponents in mind when we think of using the AI. And finally, we just keep some time for question and answers and reflection. So this is how it is designed. Ambu, you can move to the next slide. The AI movement, I mean, as I told you that we are going to discuss more in terms of like what is the AI and why does it matter for the evaluation practitioners, and why it is matter now, because since other sort of variety of works has been adopting AI quite rapidly, so how do we really ensure that evaluations are not kind of falling behind? So if you largely look at the kind of the AI, especially in crude terms, in a plain language, there are 3 components, and that's nothing new, right? Because earlier as well, all of us have studied in either school or somewhere that there is always an input, there is a process, and there is an output, right? And then mostly engineering students and most of us are like most of the people sitting here are engineers, so they understand that it's always a kind of flow. Now, the capability which AI brings is the kind of at all 3 levels. So if you look at the data is the first component. You get certain data in the form of like text, number, images, or kind of voice, let's say voice notes as well. And then you have certain models. So once you input data, or AI picks up data from somewhere, from the repository, goes to the next level where there are algorithm built in, and those algorithms algorithms will find pattern in that data by the machine learning, doing the computational kind of numbers there, and basis on that, machines basically generate certain insights, and that become the AI input, right? So output, right? So where you get the kind of AI produces text or classifications or scores or whatever, right? So any output that is generated. So in crude language, if you look at, there are three stages. One is the data, that is repository. That data could be in any form. That data is used under certain algorithm or the pattern. That pattern generates certain outputs. So this is how it works, and all of you are aware about it. Now, if you look at the core messaging around it, is that it's a tool for processing information scale. I think human limitation is that we can process information. It's nothing new, but I think the kind of speed it could be processed by an AI tool is enormous, right? So exponential. So I think that's where the use case is quite sort of evident that the work that human will do maybe a kind of x amount of time, the AI can do this, let's say in micro x amount of time, right? So that is the kind of power it can produce, but it is not a replacement of human judgment, because AI cannot think. AI can process, AI can kind of do computation, but cannot think. I mean, there is no mind behind the AI. Now, why it is important, like why this moment matters for us, right? Especially if you look at from the evaluation standpoint, that if you look at the evaluation, there are multiple components within the evaluation in the entire life cycle. We'll come to that later. But I think in terms of the kind of use cases, if you look at, there are four components that are very important to note here. One is the speed, as I said, right? Because AI can process like the trillions of data points in no time. Right? So that computational capability is the first thing, and which means that a lot of field nodes, because we have worked with grassroots NGOs, and I have myself exposed to a very kind of grassroots rural, both in India and Africa, and a lot of like field nodes. If you look at the program team that goes on the ground, they do a lot of observation which they record in their diaries, and those diaries are the main evidence, right? Main source of information, rich information, which if analyzed well on a real-time basis could generate a lot of insights that can help you course correct and improve the impact of your program. But mostly what I have observed in less like no more than 2 decades of my experience, that most of those diaries are either kept in the kind of shelves or thrown in the garbage, right? I mean, the person who is writing it doesn't have bandwidth and time to even look at those diaries and understand as to what insights I gathered when I was visiting to a field. So AI can really help to process those kind of information that are very real, very genuine, and very rich information, which generally is not being analyzed. So this is the speed, and that can really most important component of the AI. The second is the cost, because if you really look at the kind of information that exist in the program managers kind of either mind or their notes or their observation, if you are committed to really understand the insights and based on that generate those information and generate some insights, you have to put a lot of people to do that work, right? Because they need to then read the diaries, transcribe it, and then analyze it, and then coming up with the data, and that means a lot of cost. So AI coming in the picture can reduce a lot of cost. So second component is the cost, because it is not it is important for the quantitative data analysis, but more so for the qualitative data analysis. Because as a qualitative researcher, Madhvi, you understand that how difficult it is for a qualitative researchers to for a qualitative researcher to really go through all the notes, all the transcripts, and basis on that generate kind of common codes, thematics, and then basis on that generate insights. So it's a very time-taking exercise. With AI, you can reduce this cost very easily. Third is the access, because a lot of tool today, especially the LLMs, and also the small language models are now built in, indigenous small language models. Those are like free. Either they are like free of cost or very low cost. So you can, the access is not that big issue. I mean, it's not that the premium you have to pay to use AI. So third component is the access. The fourth, which is a risk of exclusion, because if you look at the, and since when I was approached by Vinod, I was told that a lot of NGOs are going to be kind of the participant of today's discussion. So I thought that it's very important for the NGO fraternity them as well to be kind of be in the game, because if you look at the kind of businesses, for instance, if you look at the funding agencies or the think tanks or the consulting firm, they are all have started adopting AI very rapidly, and they have started kind of using AI for most of those mundane works which was done by the kind of the entry level people. Whereas NGOs are not that rapidly they're adopting the AI. So they might just be little left behind. So just ensuring that they are not left behind, they should also be kind of supported by the donors and having certain amount of capital or grant allocated to build their capability for the AI use as well. If you look at the adoption, this is how the AI adoption had changed. When it came in 2018, it was kind of very low, but gradually, like initial 3 years was little people were very suspicious about it. They were not sure as to what needs to be done, whether AI is going to take our job. So they were like, keeping a very kind of arm's length distance. But gradually, I think the adoption is rapidly skyrocketing. It's like exponential. So today, if you look at like 2025 data says that it's almost like 100%, right? So a lot of people have started using it quite rapidly, and eventually it will kind of grow more with more SLMs coming in, more indigenous model coming in. A lot of people will use even more. So it's very important to use AI. But as I said, as Vinod also said, that keeping human in the loop is very important, because AI cannot replace human. AI doesn't have thinking capability. So we should not confuse that the computational capability is the thinking capability. So we have to be very careful about it and cognizant of this fact. We can move to the next slide, Ambush. So this is the kind of we understood a little bit about the AI, like what is AI. Now, if I kind of put this into the context, today's context, we are talking about evaluation. And evaluation, if you remember, I mean, a lot of you, like some of you know about it, that there has kind of there happened to be kind of an entire M&E team, right? So 6 people, 7 people working. Sometimes in one of my organization where I was working, I was heading that organization. I was pushed by a donor saying that okay, your M&E team should be 50% of the program team. I mean, say okay. I mean, we pushed back. We said that it's not needed because program team should take the responsibility of the ground. They don't need to have inspectors kind of sitting on their head to tell them as to what's working, what's not working. But since they put us a lot of money and said no, we want the M&E to be very strong, so we said okay, fine, we hired. But with the AI, what I'm seeing ironically today, I was talking to a few organizations, NII, for instance, National Nutrition International, and they said that they have completely kind of got rid of their entire M&E team, and now they are kind of mostly either M&E is being done by the program team, or they are using a lot of AI to generate insights and more focusing on the process evaluation rather than doing terminal evaluation. But if you look at the use of the AI today in the evaluation lifecycle, there are 5 components. A lot of people who are sitting, I mean, all of you who are sitting here on the call, they come from the research and evaluation background. There are 5 components in evaluation, right? So if you look at the evaluation lifecycle, it starts with design to data collection to analysis to reporting, and then using that learning and insight, and then further course correction. So this is the life cycle, and each and every step there is a lot of use of the AI which is happening. Starting from design, I think where when you put a proposal, when you put a kind of the design metrics for any particular evaluation, and Madhvi would know that better than anyone else, that you need to do a lot of secondary research to understand as to what kind of logic model, what kind of RQ research question I can put in here, what could be the KPIs which I need to kind of understand the responses on, collect kind of data, and then basis on that we generate indicators. So AI is being used to design the evaluation. The second is the data collection. Now the data collection is something which is very human specific, right? I mean, data cannot be collected. Can be collected, but I think there is always a human relevance that enumerators goes on the ground and they do data collection. But where people are using AI, there is to ensure that the real-time data is being transcribed, right? So if the recorders are on, and if a kind of the chatbot is using that information, or the AI is using that information, the transcripts are being generated real time. 10 years back or 7 years back, transcripts were kind of mostly the notes were written on the diary, and then someone will sit on those notes or transcribe it or hire an agency to do the transcription and then use that transcription to do manual analysis, right? So that's where I think a lot of data collection, AI is being used in data collection and data kind of digitization and transcription. The analysis part, NLP, as you know, natural language processing, is being used for qualitative pattern detection and also auto-coded thematics. And then finally, it's being used in reporting, where you generate draft and then you can use AI to visualize your data in different kind of forms and shape. And then finally, you can kind of ask the AI to use the AI to write a kind of very solid, very crisp and influential executive summary. And finally, if a lot of organizations that are developing more of a chatbot based on their data, where they are making it available for the program team to use that chatbot for their kind of the troubleshooting on the ground. So if they are getting an insight basis on the evaluation they have conducted, since evaluation reports are mostly kept in themselves, they are not used. So now with AI, a lot of people have started using the AI to use their insights that have gathered as part of their evaluation exercise. So you have spent like millions of dollars to conduct an evaluation. Evaluation has a lot of high quality insights, but those insights are not being used by the program team or the design team or the management team. So a lot of organizations started going advanced, thinking advanced, and now they've started putting the chatbot, which is basically a repository of all the evaluations and insights they have gathered, so that that can be very easily used on real time basis for the people who are responsible to do the work on the ground. If we move to the next, we'll talk about what are the tools available. I think most of you know about it, but I just wanted to kind of remind this that these tools are available and these tools are largely free of cost and are being used very kind of widespread. Very kind of frequently by a lot of organizations and individuals. ChatGPT and Claude, as you know, that is it has paid version for sure. I mean, the free versions have certain limitations, but still, I think the free version has enough kind of a free sort of codes where you can use those codes to tokens to generate, especially drafting the survey, summarizing FGD notes, and coding qualitative data. Otter AI, as you all know, that is started coming into the practice for recording notes, like meeting minutes. So that is basically audio to text, where you can use a lot of the interviews, field interviews that can be conducted and could be transcribed real time into the text, and then that could be used for your kind of analysis and the report generation. Power BI these days is very kind of very common for a lot of people who understand Power BI. They started using Power BI for generating the dashboard. Earlier, it was you have to reach out to the web developer to do a lot of charge you a lot of money, take a lot of time, do a lot of back and forth, and then basis on that generate a dashboard. And then every time you go to them for the troubleshooting, now with the Power BI, you can use Power BI to generate a kind of quick mini dashboard. And then now, if you don't want to keep that on Power BI, you can very easily go to Netify, and Netify can also just give you more open access. I mean, I understand that Power BI is paid. I mean, the free version has that capability, but free version you cannot give this access, very easy access to the audiences without giving them the credential. So they cannot use the dashboard until they have your credential to log in and enter. But with Netify, it has become very kind of accessible to anyone. Google Note LM, I think all of you must be aware of it. It's more of a documented. It can do. So Vinod will share all these details. I mean, contact details and everyone. So Google Note LM, for instance, is very interesting for the documentation purpose. You can evaluate. You can upload evaluation reports and also ask questions and generate summaries. Atlas and NVivo, I'm sure Madhvi, you must have used this. If not Atlas, NVivo for sure, especially for the qualitative thematic analysis and coding. It's an AI-assisted qualitative coding for thematic analysis. which is very important for qualitative because the actual meat come from the qualitative discussions. Quantitative discussions are mostly numbers. They come in the form of percentage, but the actual sort of between the lines understanding come from the qualitative. And Vivo is a very powerful tool, and Atlas.ai as well. And I'm sure you must be using. The only flip side of it is that it's paid. It's not like free. Free version doesn't have those capabilities that are required to do high quality qualitative analysis, but some of the qualitative analysis could be done by Claude as well very easily, because if you use Claude and provide right kind of prompts and be on top of it to understand whether the insights are generated are in sync with what your thinking expectations are, then Claude can do a lot of this kind of work as well. And finally, the ODK plus AI integration. This is basically an intelligent script logic, and you can use that ODK to generate the kind of forms which could be used for surveys, right? And this is open source. So there are so many others. I just wanted to kind of bring in the top 5-6 which are easily available and have powerful kind of capabilities to ease your evaluation exercise or research exercise. To go to the next slide. Now, if you look at the practical framework, right, because it is very important to know where AI can help you and where AI can put you in problem, and how we can integrate AI thoughtfully instead just being very mindless while using the AI, because AI does a lot of hallucination. And they are so confident, the models are so confident that they can tell you wrong information very confidently. And that can very easily confuse you that, okay, this is right information wrong, and you just tend to find it as a right information. So it's very important for us to be very careful and very thoughtful when we are integrating AI in our workflow. If you go to the next slide, I would just bring in some of the components where you should definitely use AI, and some of the places where you should avoid using AI. So, for instance, if you have a large volume of data, definitely use, right? Because you need that data to be quickly analyzed. You should use it. But again, I would say that after using AI, if the insights are generated, then make sure that you are sitting on top of it and not kind of blindly copying pasting it. Generating first draft, and when I say generating first draft, I mean it, because the final draft can be generated by AI, but at least should go through multiple rounds of iteration by the human being. So making sure that the first draft is generated by the AI, thoroughly reviewed by a human, and then the final draft to be generated and then finally reviewed by the human before sending it out. The third is the translating content across languages. I think AI has done this job really well, right? So if you need to translate any particular tool in multiple language or any particular data in multiple language, which is useful for you to analyze the data, I think AI can do that job really well. We use that very extensively in our work, translating though we kind of know after the translation, some of the hallucination we see, and we try to kind of correct it by using our human kind of intervention there. But I think that has been a very solid, that has been a very good support for us to quickly translate certain components, and because we administer surveys in different kind of language and geographies as well. So, for instance, there are multi-state surveys. Now, for that, generally we generate the first tool in English, but we need to translate in Hindi, Odia, Tamil, and that earlier we used to go to kind of multiple language translators to do that work for us, and it was so time-taking, so taxing. And these days it's become very easy. And then we have experts of different languages we are in touch with, and they can quickly vet it. They can quickly kind of edit it and then tell us whether it's the right language or not. So that is another thing where we should definitely do that work. It will reduce a lot of the time efficiency and cost efficiency. Understanding themes from the transcripts. And Madhvi, you would know that how difficult it was, because one question asked will have different responses coming in from the different audiences, and the same kind of responses will come in different language as well. I mean, different wordings. So finding a common theme, common language was a sort of nightmare for a qualitative researcher, right? Because everyone will respond in their own way to any certain problem, right? So now with the with kind of the AI identifying those themes and then ensuring that you have got the kind of the thematic components very much bucketed around it and the data bucketed around it. AI is doing really a great job in that, and that's very useful as well. And then summarizing the existing evidence literature. So whatever literature exists on that particular topic, if you want that to be quickly reviewed and you want a kind of summary which can then be used for designing your research or evaluation, that's where I think AI can play a very good role. Where we should avoid it is first is that the final attribution and causal claims. I mean, any causal claim or the final attribution don't be dependent on the AI, because you as a researcher, as an expert, should keep yourself involved in this discussion, because AI can kind of mislead it completely. So you have to be very sure you can use that as a tool, but don't depend on AI to for the final attribution of the causal claims. The second, that the primary stakeholder engagement, because that's where your core is, your spatial source is. Until you talk to the audiences about whom you want to understand it, your primary stakeholders should be contacted by the human. Only then you can understand, because a lot of things in the data, what we have learned is that what is being said is not enough. What is being seen is also important, right? So I'm saying something, but my entire kind of observation of this entire kind of space where these discussions are happening are very useful insights for a researcher to use when the analysis is being done or the insights is being generated. So it's very important to be in the loop when we are interacting with primary stakeholders or primary stakeholders. Third component, which is more ethical and also important morally, and also kind of I mean objectively important, is that don't generate data where data doesn't exist, right? So just generating false data is not something we should do with the use of AI. The sensitive contexts are very important to keep in mind. So don't use AI for the sensitive context, such as any trauma, conflict, or the when the minors are involved, basically the children are involved. It's very important to avoid using AI in that case. And the final is don't get into I mean, especially the black box decisions that are unacceptable. So don't use AI where you generate something which is unacceptable, that has become the black box. It's not being understood by anyone who is going to read the report. So largely, I would say that if you look at the time efficiency and cost efficiency question, the computational question, I think using AI for the computational capability, for the speed and cost reduction, definitely we should. When it comes to the interpretive component, when it comes to kind of the analysis, especially from the attribution and the causal claims, or the interaction with the primary stakeholder, or kind of having the real data, so all those places where there is a thinking involved, thought process involved, we should avoid using AI, especially for the final product and the final outcome. If you move to the next slide, I think we can discuss about it. There are 3 steps which we can use to integration approach. One is that the first is audit your evaluation workflow. So you understand that any evaluation life cycle will have multiple kind of stages, multiple steps. Map each step and ask where is time lost to volume, repetition, or language barrier. So this is your AI entry point, right? So I mean, if you really want to reduce the time and the cost and any language barrier, I think that's the place where AI could be very important tool for you to use. Test AI first on the past database. Don't kind of start using AI on the first time. Don't start using AI with the high stake projects where you have launched the project and first time you're using the AI. Don't do that. First you train the AI, understand its kind of nature, and then use more of a kind of secondary data set or past data set to validate against human output, right? So that you have like two components. One is that okay, human output has been generated by sorry, the output is being generated by the human in the previous reports. Now use that data to train the AI to understand the kind of similarities and dissimilarities. So this is very important to train and understand and build your confidence without, I mean, before using it for your current project. So that you are also aware as to how much deviant it is. Is it closer to what a human had interpreted, or it is kind of very much digress from the place where you wanted it to be in. The third is always, as I said, and it's like needless to say this again, but I would like to reiterate it again and again, that it's very important that human in the loop, because AI, use of AI to produce a draft is good, but the final decision should be human. So it's important to go through that line by line to understand whether what I have expected this report to say, whether this report says or not, or this insight says or not. Document what AI contributed. Don't kind of just say that okay, it's been generated by me. Wherever it has been generated by AI, you don't feel shy about acknowledging it, and build institutional memory about AI use, because it's very important that we do this into isolation. We use AI, we go chat by chat, we change a kind of open a new chat and start. I think that is not helpful. So if you start a chat, make sure that you create project within the AI tools, and then keep those kind of institutional memory with you, so that AI could then be more efficient for your day-to-day kind of work as well. The next slide is on the next slide is talking about the risk and ethics, which I spoke initially about. Is that it's very important to be very careful about, because there is always a risk involved, and it's important for every evaluation practitioner must understand before deploying AI that what are the risks involved and what is the ethics side of it. The 6 risks I would call, I mean, I have listed here, especially for the NGO evaluators or the independent researchers, they should know about. One is the hallucination, right? As I said, that it's hallucinate a lot. AI confidently generate kind of false information, and and that's why it is very important to verify that. So it says that okay, X and X research says Y and Y, and then there is always a temptation to believe that it's right information, but always there is a recommendation that go back to that source and see if the information is correct or not. If it is correct, then it's fine, because hallucination has become a big problem these days. They keep on misquoting certain data and certain evidences. So make sure that the primary source is being contacted if there is any reference given. The data privacy is very important, because feeding beneficiary data into public AI tool may violate the consent and data protection laws. So make sure that you are, when you are using public data or any individual's data, make sure that it's consented and it's been reported that you will use AI to interpret this data, because without telling that, putting in the public AI system is not legal, right? So just make sure that you are aware of that. The over reliance on AI these days, it has become a big problem. People are just losing their creativity. Anything and everything they put on AI, try and understand everything related with personal, professional, interrelational, everything is being done by the AI. So over reliance on AI is not at all advisable, because team may stop questioning AI outputs. Critical thinking is the evaluator's core value, and if AI is being used so frequently and we are dependent on AI, I think completely the critical thinking will erode. Bias amplification, as I said, bias amplification is one component which we must know about. AI is trained on biased data, reproduces the skills that bias. Check outputs for marginalized group representation. Make sure that all the groups are represented. When you are generating any insights, should not be that the only groups that are privileged are being represented in that. The black box problem, as I said, you cannot always explain why AI reached a conclusion. So, for instance, if you have proposed given AI a multiple kind of data sources, and then ask AI to come with a conclusion, there is no rationality behind it, right? So it can come with multiple combination, the best combination they presented, but that could remain as a black box for you to understand as to why they represented this and not something else. So this is very important for you to be in the loop so that you can know that why this information, and that's where you need to be accountable for. That you are accountable for, not the AI, if you are generating something. Finally, is the digital equity. AI tools assume internet access. As you know that everyone doesn't have that literacy and English, and that is a big challenge because we are in the world where not everyone has the same kind of proficiency in terms of English language and also in terms of access to the internet and the device. So it's very important that we think about the context, especially context in global south where we're sitting, and need and think of having a kind of more of tailored approaches, because most of the AI models, if you look at, are built in the countries where they are kind of far ahead, developed countries, especially US and China, for instance. So how do we really, and then they're built on their context. So how do we really make sure that we are not losing the context of the global south, and that is very important for the developmental work which we belong to. The next slide, which is basically the ethical principles. One is the transparency, as I said earlier, that disclose when and how AI was used in your evaluation methodology. There is no harm in that. A lot of people are using it, and people appreciate if you disclose it. The human oversight, again, repetitive, might sound repetitive, but it is very important that it is being evaluated by the professional, and the final inputs, the final outputs are being fully evaluated. Do no harm. This is the most important principle to keep in mind. Never use AI in the ways that could expose or stigmatize or disadvantage community. And finally, the informed consent. As I said, that is very important to tell the participants that AI will be used to process their data or the stories, so that they are so that you are not breaching the data protection and data sharing protocols. Now, AI must enhance evaluator integrity and never substitute for it. Is the kind of a core message which I wanted to give with this slide. Next, I think next is Amuj. Can you move to the next slide?
Yeah, can you see he's actually moving to the next one? So
Yeah, it seems that my internet is little low. So I'll leave this. So this is basically for today. I just wanted to kind of list down certain things as a takeaway for everyone for today. Though we have discussed about it a lot today, so it's a kind of just glimpse through it. Make sure that you keep this in mind while you leave this room. When you leave this room and you start using AI more kind of frequently in day-to-day evaluation work. So with this, I'll close from my from my end, the presentation from my end, and we'll open for questions and reflection. We still have like 5-6 minutes to go. So if you have any question, any reflection, any sort of feedback, I think floor is open for that.
thank you very much, Sandeep. While other people might be contemplating about asking anything, I just wanted to have your experience in while you're working with different, the governments and also major organizations who might be using your perspective on the evaluation. So how much they appreciate the AI in evaluation, because that is the primary question almost everywhere we go and present our monitoring evaluation report, that how much we have used AI. So what is the level of confidence and suspicion in the end organizations which are actually using it?
Yeah, no, it's a very good question. Then I think, see, I mean, it is also very mixed, right? I mean, it is also about the stage different organizations or individuals are in terms of their development of use of AI, right? So, I mean, we get mixed responses, to be very honest, right? So, for instance, we make it one thing we make very kind of clear about that wherever we use AI, we make sure that we tell people that this is where it is being used, right? But one thing we never do, that we are never dependent on the AI. So some of the things, as I said, that computational components we use AI, and then there is a very close human intervention there. So anything we generate as a final output, we always take the accountability of it. And some of the places where I've seen that some of the organizations who have started using AI and now confident in terms of the capability of the AI, they accept it. They accept it very easily. Whereas some of them who are not that literate and they are seeing AI as a kind of as a tool, which is then a kind of they think that the other person is lazy, that's why they are using AI, right? So they always make mockery of it, saying that okay, AI use karke banaya, right? So I think so there are mixed kind of feelings, but in government these days it is being used quite kind of rapidly, to be very honest, because generally even the policy briefings, right? So some of the policies, initial policy briefings are being drafted using the AI, and then basis on that they deliberate, they sit, consult, and finally they come up with the policies, like no final document. But in the like donors ecosystem, I think is accepted. In government ecosystem is still kind of evolving. In NGO ecosystem, I think I would say that they're still grappling with the fact that they're not aware, right? I mean, honestly, you can present something which they cannot know, whether it's like AI generated or the human generated, right? So I think there is a mixed feeling coming in from different people, but whenever we use AI, we largely use AI for, as I said, data cleaning, putting in data together. But the final analysis is being done by our internal evaluation team. So this is how, and then we make it very clear to the audiences as well, to the clients and also to the audiences, that where we have used AI. So it is a mixed feeling. I would say that it will take time to get to the place where there is a kind of a uniform response coming in. But as I said, I mean, donors fraternity and the think tank, I mean, look at the all big fours and everyone, right? I mean, they're just using their for instance, recently KPMG has partnered with Claude to kind of automate their own workflow with the AI. So everything they are doing with the AI and everyone is aware of. So there is an acceptance gradually increasing,
Right.
and hopefully it will increase.
Thank you. Since you are working in the United States for a non-profit organization in the United States, what is your perspective on this? How keen people are on taking inputs, especially from the evaluation side, from AI generated reports and observations?
I think here also people are very intensively using AI these days because, of course, generating reports, especially using AI, it's very kind of easy to generate different kind of reports for different kind of audience, and it kind of easy from for the audience or for the different kind of people. For example, if you want to represent your findings in front of maybe common people or in front of policy makers, so you need to have different kind of communication style to represent your findings. So definitely AI is helping around them, but here is always a discussion on those ethics as as Sandeep ji explained. So here are a lot of discussion around first to have policy around using AI. Like everyone is accepting using AI, but people are having concern. What should be the policy frames around working with AI? So that's definitely, even professors in universities, they are also encouraging people to use AI nowadays. And for example, moving first step using AI is really helpful, as Sandeep ji also mentioned. If you are stepping into the design process, so definitely to create your first kind of draft in this process, AI is very helpful. But you cannot rely just on AI outputs. You definitely have to go back and like you need human intervention to verify that AI response as well.
Thank you. So, is there any question from anyone? Because we are kind of pretty much our time is over. So this event was essentially planned by JPAL and World Bank people with our collaboration. We were hoping to have a lot more participants, but seems that a lot of people could not join. And as far as the AI in general, is in view. People are having a lot of discussions about their ethics and other angle as well. I mean, recently Bernie Sanders, the U.S. senator, is bringing a bill to have to curb the major big IT companies and technology companies to have all the control on the history of the intelligence of the human histories, intelligence to put in the tools and the agents and having controlling that. So the number of new dimensions are being discussed at what are the ethical and as well as the efficiency dimensions of use of AI. But we people in the development sector will continue to use AI. I believe in a constantly monitored way as well. So thank you very much, Sandeep. Thank you very much, Princey and all our participants, Maureen, Shaurya, Madhvi, and Munna. I truly appreciate your being here. You can write to us, through the contacts that you have on the portal, and also share Mr. Sandeep Mishra's contact to Madhvi and everybody else who wants to have further, discussion with him.
I think my email
Thank
ID,
you.
yes, this helps. I mean, Vinod, you can share the contact detail in case it's needed. But I have shared my email ID in the chat. So
Great. Yeah. Good. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. It was a great presentation. I just feel that at gLOCAL Week they could have spaced out different sessions a little better, because right now we have very good presentations all happening concurrently, and so it really I mean obviously you cannot attend more than one session at a time, so sometimes you just sort of hop on from one to another, and that really doesn't do either the presenter or even the audience justice. So I just feel that they could have paced it a little better.
And absolutely, I agree. In fact, looking at the Sandeep's fantastic presentation, I really wish a lot more people could have benefited, and I hope that in the future, and that will be one of the feedbacks that we'll provide to the organizers. Thank you very much for
Yeah, exactly. Because I mean, we can watch the video later, but I think this is more participative. So one would actually want to engage with the speakers, and I mean, I also had to hop off for like a couple of minutes, and I didn't like doing that. But I mean, it's the way they've scheduled it.
Right. So we were initially, as we had 42 participants registered for this, and we were hoping. So we had to wait for some time in beginning. So we wasted a lot of some minutes there. But well, that was still people who participated, and the speaker. Thank you all, and hopefully gLOCAL. The organizers will do it in a more organized and better way, so you all can benefit better. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Bye-bye.
All
Bye,
right.
Sandeep. Take care. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night, Princy. Bye.